Hello everyone, welcome to Data Science Simple. My name is Sebastian. Today we will be talking about lists, dictionaries and tuples. But before we do that, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel and visit datasciencesimple.com. There you will find a lot of information that it will be very helpful for you in your journey of becoming a data scientist. Now, another thing, in the description below, you will find a link to the notebook, to the repo. I encourage you to download the notebook or clone the repo because it makes a way better experience if you watch the video and you are also able to type. With that being said, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with a list. What is a list? Well, very simple. A list in Python it's nothing more than an object that contains elements, and these elements are in a specific order. So the way you define a list in Python is the following. You put the name of your variable. In our case, our variable is going to be called list A. Then you do equal, open square brackets, and then you start listing your elements, separated by commas. In our case, we have the string car, the string bike, and the string boat. Now, you can put anything you want in these lists. It can be strings, as we have here, it can be numbers, it can be tables, or any other object that you want. The cool thing, or the important thing, is that each one of these elements is going to be associated with a number. And the trick is that the first element doesn't get number 1, but it gets number 0. So, for example, in our case, car will be element number 0, bike will be element number 1, and boat will be element number 2. Now, let's run this line of code so we get our list created. Okay, so now the question is, how do I access these elements? Well, very simple. Let's say that you want to access the first element, car. Car has 0 associated with it. So you can simply do list A, open square bracket, 0, close square bracket. Let's take a look. Exactly what we wanted, car. Now, clearly, if you want to access the last element, in this case, boat, you can do list A, open, close square brackets, and put the number 2 there. That will give you both. But there is a shortcut. You can do -1. You can do list A, open, close, square brackets, -1. The idea behind it is that if car is number 0, -1 will take you back to both. Let's take a look. Pretty cool, right? Now, let me show you something else. Let's say that you have this list, list C, and you have elements in it, in this case letters, strings. And you want to access, let's say you want to access or grab only elements D, E, and F, and nothing else. You do that by doing list C, open square bracket, 3, column 6. That will give you from element 3 to element 6 without including element 6, which in this case is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, G. So it will not include G. Let's take a look. D, E, and F. Now, what if you want to grab not only to element 6, but to the very end? Well, you can do simply list C, open close square brackets, 3, column, and nothing else. That will tell Python to go to the end of the list, to start at element number 3 and go to the very end. Let's take a look. You see, goes from D to J. All right, now let's talk about how to add an element to the list, how to remove it, or how to replace an element in your list. So we have our list C. which is just letters from A to J. And we will be adding an element to it at the very end. In order to do that, you use the append function and you do the following. You do list c.append and then the element that you want to add to it, to your list. In this case, the string number 1. Let's take a look at what happened to the list. Well, letters from A to J plus the string number 1. Alright, now let's remove this last element that we have added to our string. Let's get rid of this. Let me show you how you do that. Super easy. You get list c dot remove and then inside the parentheses you put the element that you want to remove. In this case, number 1. Let's see what happened. Exactly what we wanted. We are back to our original list. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do I replace an element in the list? Well, very simple. Let's take a look. Let's say that you want to remove the first element. You do list c, open close square brackets, and then inside 0, and then equal to whatever you want to put in instead of your element number 0. In this case, we're going to put the string 1. Let's take a look. Exactly what we wanted. Instead of A, we have 1 now. Okay, so we're getting very close to the end of lists. 2 things I want to mention. First, how to measure the length of a list. That is super easy. What you do is you use the length function. So in this case we have length, and inside the parentheses we have list c. We hit enter, and this is telling us that our list c has 10 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, the last thing about lists that we will be talking about today. That is how to put 2 lists together, how to concatenate them. Let's say that you have a couple of lists. One is called list L and it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, and the second one is list M and it has the numbers 4, 5, and 6. And you want to get a new list that has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, super easy. You just do list N, which is our new list, equal to list L plus list M. Let's take a look what happened. We got exactly what we wanted. A list that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so we're done with lists. Now we're gonna move to tuples. Really, there's not much to say about tuples other than they are very similar to lists with a couple of differences. First difference is how you define a tuple. You do, in this case, we're gonna call it tup1, and we're gonna do parentheses, regular parentheses, not square brackets. And inside the parentheses, you're going to put the elements of your tuple. In our case, we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's take a look when we print to screen our new tuple. Yeah, just numbers 1 through 4. Now, the second difference, or the real difference between tuples and lists is that tuples cannot be modified. If you try to modify a tuple, for example, in the same way that we modified an element in a list, you won't be able to. Let's take a look. Let's say that we want to modify element number 2 of the tuple, in this case number 3. We're going to try to make it equal to 100. We run this line of code and we get an error. Everything else is exactly the same. Everything else that I mentioned for lists apply for tuples. Okay, now finally we have reached the end of the notebook. And the last thing we need to talk about is dictionaries. What is a dictionary? Well, very simple. A dictionary is nothing more than an object that has elements, and each one of these elements is a key value pair. So it has two parts. One is the key and one is the value. Here I have an example. I have my variable called diction1 equal to, and then a dictionary, you define it with curly brackets. And then you see I have pairs. I have names and numbers. So let's say that, for example, this is Camila, and Camila has $27 in the bank. Nicholas has 30, David has 25, Julie has 27, and Karen has 35. So this is a dictionary. So we have element, comma, element, comma, element, comma, element. And each element has a key, and then you go column and the value. So let's take a look what happened when we run this line of code. We get our dictionary. Now, each of the elements can be accessed in the following way. For example, if you want to know how many dollars Camila has, you go diction1, open close square bracket, and then the key that you are interested in this case Camila. So if we run this, we should get 27. Let's take a look. Exactly. Now, how can you add one more element to your dictionary? Very simple. You do diction1, which is the variable where our dictionary is stored, open close square brackets, and inside you put your key. In our case, the key is gonna be Clay. And we're telling Python that Clay is gonna have $21. So if we run this line of code, we get the dictionary that we had before, plus one more element, which is Clay and 21. Okay, so we are at the very end of our notebook, and now let's imagine that we have a dictionary and we want to figure out how many elements the dictionary has and what are the keys. So let's start with the number of elements. To figure out the number of elements, you're gonna use the len function, just because the len function is awesome and super simple to use. So what you do is len and open close parentheses, and inside your dictionary, in our case, diction1. Our diction1 has 6 elements. So when we run this line of code, we get 6. Now, the keys. To figure out the keys in a dictionary, you do the following. You do name of your dictionary dot keys, open close parentheses. In this case, I'm making that a list, and I'm saving that in a variable called keylist. Let's take a look. Exactly what we expected. Camila, Nicholas, David, Julia, Karen, and Clay. Alright guys, I hope you liked the video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.